Okay, let's dive right into this. How exactly did humanity evolve from scattered groups of wanderers into the incredibly complex, bustling societies we live in today? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going back to the absolute roots of our modern world to explore Mesopotamia, literally the true cradle of civilization. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. We'll start with the land between rivers, then trace the rise of the first cities, followed by the spark of innovation. After that, we'll look at order, justice, and law, explore ziggurats and the divine, and finally wrap things up with the cradle's eternal legacy. All right, Section 1, the land between rivers. So, Mesopotamia actually translates literally to the land between rivers. And for early humans, finding this spot was pretty much the ultimate geographical lottery ticket. Think about it. This specific slice of Earth provided something extremely rare at the time: a steady, reliable water supply from the mighty Tigris and Euphrates rivers, completely surrounded by rich, fertile soil. Without this precise geographic setup, this exact combination of water and dirt, the spark of human civilization as we know it simply wouldn't have ignited. Which brings us to Section 2, Rise of the First Cities. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this incredibly fertile geography naturally triggered a fascinating chain reaction. People didn't just wake up one random Tuesday and decide to build a massive metropolis. First, they settled near the rivers. Second, they used that uniquely rich soil to figure out how to farm crops, specifically wheat and barley. Now, this created an agricultural surplus, which was the ultimate game changer. Since they suddenly had reliable food, they could actually stay in one place. That led directly to Step 3, building permanent villages. And finally, Step 4, those villages steadily expanded into the world's very first powerful cities. And when we say cities, we definitely aren't talking about a few small mud huts clumped together. Places like Uruk, and Babylon were powerhouse cities of just sheer unprecedented scale. We're talking about places eventually housing tens of thousands of people. They totally replaced those simple, quiet farming villages with bustling, hyper-organized urban centers. Just imagine being an ancient traveler walking out of the rugged wilderness and seeing the massive, sprawling footprint of Babylon for the very first time. No doubt, it must have felt like stepping directly into the future. Moving on to Section 3, the spark of innovation. Now, here's the thing. When you suddenly cram thousands of people together into a massive city, you run into massive problems. Humanity had to invent quickly just to survive. Think about it. You've got gigantic storehouses of grain to feed thousands of hungry people. How in the world do you keep track of all of it? That urgent, pressing need led to one of the earliest forms of writing, cuneiform. Now, they weren't writing epic poetry right out of the gate. They were literally pressing symbols into wet clay tablets just to write out beer and grain receipts. But from there, the innovations just absolutely exploded. They developed complex mathematics to measure things out, created calendars to track the changing seasons and harvests, and ultimately developed laws. This leads perfectly into Section 4, Order, Justice, and Law. You simply cannot have tens of thousands of people living side by side without a reliable system to resolve disputes and maintain the peace. It would be total chaos. So the crucial point is how leaders stepped up to manage this. Enter one of the most famous kings of the era, Hammurabi. He created a comprehensive set of rules known as the Code of Hammurabi. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a casual list of suggestions pinned to a wall. It was an essential legal framework designed to bring true order and justice to society. It covered everything, from family disputes to actual minimum wage laws for workers and even liability for builders. It established the absolutely revolutionary concept that laws govern everyone, completely transforming how human beings interact and manage themselves. Up next, Section 5, Ziggurats and the Divine. The immense wealth and intense organization of these cities didn't just fund basic survival. It led to some breathtaking, monumental architecture. The Mesopotamians built these huge, stepped temples called ziggurats. But why build so high? Well, they firmly believed the gods controlled everything that mattered. The totally unpredictable forces of nature, the success of their precious wheat and barley harvests, and ultimately, human destiny itself. These towering mud brick structures weren't just buildings. They were a massive physical bridge reaching way up into the sky to connect their earthly cities directly to the divine forces they believed managed their very survival. Finally, Section 6, the cradle's eternal legacy. When we step back and look at the centuries that followed, we see an incredibly dynamic and ever-changing region. different empires rose to absolute dominance and eventually fell in sequence. First, you had the Sumerians, followed by the Akkadians, then the Babylonians, and later the Assyrians. And this brilliantly illustrates the timeline. Seeing them mapped out sequentially like this prevents them from just jumbling together in our minds. Over the centuries, each of these distinct groups left their own unique mark on history. They traded with distant lands, built magnificent cities, and with every passing era, they relentlessly expanded the limits of human knowledge. Though these specific ancient kingdoms eventually disappeared into the sands of time, their inventions and ideas, they changed the world forever. They are rightly remembered as the cradle of civilization because they quite literally laid the foundation for humanity. The writing, the mathematics, the complex laws, and the highly organized urban centers we absolutely rely on today, well, all of it began to flourish right there, in that little slice of land between the rivers. As we look at the extraordinary achievements born from this ancient cradle, it leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to ponder. Think about the massive skyscrapers, the intricate digital networks, and the incredibly complex societies we live in right now. What is our modern civilization building today that will still be remembered thousands of years from now? Thank you for exploring the roots of our world with me today. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.